AMD Radeon chief confirms major product announcement at Gamescom next week. AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO 7995WX 96-core CPU has been leaked out. The real reason why AMD Navi 4X, the high-end Radeon 4 GPU, will get cancelled. And lastly, AMD Ryzen 5 7500F is now available in Germany.
This is Tech Track.
Okay, so firstly we have AMD Gaming Festival 2023, which will be on Friday 25th of August, Hall 7, starting at 12, I guess it's AM, and it will be at Gamescom, which is the first Gamescom of 2023. Yeah, basically Scott Herkelman just tweeted this, and basically he says that please join the AMD Radeon team at Gamescom next week for our next major product announcement. I'm guessing that's the 7800 XT or the 7700 XT. Because they haven't launched yet, so probably they will be launching around that time, which is the Gamescom next week, which is kind of expected because obviously that's the biggest major product launch or GPU launch, whatever you want to call it, because it is kind of major. So I guess we'll be seeing that, so we have to stay tuned for that, I guess, for Gamescom 2023. Next up, we have a Geekbench score of, as you can see, the single score performance of 2095, and the multi-core is a massive 81,408, and well, what else that could it be? It is basically the AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO 7995WX. Basically, it is this 96-core, 192 threads processor, and if you look into the base frequency, we're looking at 7.97 gigahertz. That's massive. 7.97. This thing is fast, extremely fast. As a Threadripper, this is obviously the 7000 series of Threadripper Pro lineup we're looking at here the first time. But when we consider the all-core, obviously, that would be 5.1 gigahertz. So still quite fast, all-core, but single-core is looking pretty good. Next up, we have Allrack 29 and Creeper 9000. Both have leaked something very interesting that you want to look into. So let's look into it, shall we? So firstly, we're looking at this base layer of something, right? And there are many more other images. Like first of all, in the first picture, we're looking at the GDR PHY, and then in the second one, we're looking at the shader engine die, which is noted as SEDs. We're also looking at the shader engine die SED with GDDR5 on top of it. So basically, I guess it seems like they're stacking on top of it, something like that. And yeah, there's the same thing over and over again. So this is the logically stacked part we're looking at here. The previous one was combined, which is, as I said, they're stacking, and this is the logical stacked variant. So what is this? First, you might want to ask. So let's just look into the Creeper leak here. This is another leak we're looking at here. As you can see, is that it says AMD, and that there's like multiples. There's like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So there's basically 9 SEDs here. It kind of tells you something what's going on. So it's basically is the Navi 4X, the higher end Navi 4 die we're looking at here, even though that is not the accurate die because it's rendered by these two users separately, of course, but this is not the accurate presentation of the Navi 4X, but it has some validation to this story here. Because recently we had some leaks where it says that they're gonna be canceling the Navi 4 because of some other complications and stuff like that. We didn't know why they were canceling Navi 4X because, you know, that's the higher end GPUs for the AMD Radeon 4. So why are they really canceling it? So that was it was a question to us, but now I think we do know the answer probably, and that is probably a complexity in the architecture itself. Well, basically AMD's plan was to obviously do the multi-chip module type of stacking. Well, we already know what they do with the 3D V cache, right? It's the similar thing. They stack certain chiplets, and then the 3D V cache is quite up there on top of it. So they're just stacking it. So they want to do the same, just like the data center oriented GPUs like the Radeon Instinct MI3000 GPU series. They also wanted to use the similar concept to the Navi 4X, but it seems like they are struggling with that. So they basically had the strategy, according to many sources here, is that they were trying to utilize the sizable interposes divided into 3 segments, and each housing was dedicated to Infinity Cache and GDDR memory controllers. The AMD intends to place a sizable multimedia and IO die next to these AIDs well, also known as the core dies, creating links to each AID. As shader engines are added onto each AID, the complexity increases. That's the complexity I'm talking about here, or multiple sources are talking about this complexity here. Even though it might not be accurate, but it could be the possibility. According to reports, basically a single AID could fit up to 3 SEDs, basically giving AMD the opportunity to include up to 9 SEDs in one package. So just 9 of them in just one package, and then there's multiple of them. So it's quite fascinating architecture, that's for sure, but it's very much complex in that sense that they're struggling with it, because it does sound like it is complex for sure. I mean, I bet you would find that, but still, it seems like it's gonna be very much hard for AMD to work on this architecture, because it's very much clear now, because many sources are telling that they're going to be canceling the higher end GPUs because they are based on this architecture, which seems very complex. It kind of is fair that why they're doing this, the canceling, of course. But then again, we don't really know what AMD will do to this, because we still have a lot of time left for the 8000 series to launch. But it does seem like they're facing this complexity, which might be fixed or may not be fixed. Who knows? We can't really tell anything, but I would not like AMD to literally backtrack from this. I would rather hope that AMD would work on the Navi 4X, the higher end Navi SKUs, so that they are capable to release it. But for the time being, I feel like they're actually facing a lot of troubles. And lastly, we have the Mine Factory. Basically in Germany, this is located. E-tailer has listed this, and as you can see, it's the AMD Ryzen 5 7500F. That's a base clock of 3.7 GHz, and it's a 6-core 12-thread subprocessor, obviously. And look at the pricing. The euros, it's 196.88. Some cases it's like 200 euros. So that is the actual range of this processor that it's circulating. The Ryzen 5 7500F will be around that, and well, it is listed there. So yeah, it kind of feels like it's a good budget-friendly one for the 7000 series of processors, because already we know that they're very expensive, the 7000 series. Even the Ryzen 5 7600 is expensive. So it could be one of the, budget-friendly entry-level processors. I mean, not really entry-level, because it's still 6-core 12-thread, so it's a decent processor. But the pricing doesn't look that bad. So yeah, that could be a good option for someone who's looking for a cheaper 7000 series of processor, because DDR5 memories are coming down in price. Hopefully the motherboard pricing will go down in price too, so that it's much easier for the budget builders to make something from the 7000. I'm hopeful for that, but for now we have this processor, which is looking pretty good. The pricing, of course.